Okay, right, hello. So welcome back. This is going to be part two. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to go ahead and start working on the pose, throw down at least some base shapes for the sword, or something to indicate the size of it at least. And I think because I'm going to work on the head later, I usually do the head first because we're going to go back and work on the head later. Let's do that first. The first thing I'm going to do with the head, for example, I'm probably going to I'm going to put this into a group of its own, so that I can always just reset the group, right? So if I grab the head alone, so it's grabbing the whole lower neck. If I think no, we'll take the neck. So if I take all of this, it's outside of the hierarchy already. To ensure that it's in the center of the scene, let's pop the grid on just to make sure. Yeah, it's kind of there. I think what I want to do to ensure that it is actually in the center of the screen with nothing selected, we're going to add a group. Here we go, add a group here. And that's going to put it in the center of the scene at 0. So if we then grab the group, drag it up to somewhere around here in the middle, I think what we'll do is reset this as well. So if we, I know that resets it to 0. If we bring that back up, put it somewhere in the middle of the head. Yeah, so if we move that up there, I think we'll, at least it will be in the center, right? So even if we reset this, the whole group's going to go down to the center, and we can bring it back up or even work on it down here and sculpt it, as long as it stays in the center. So we've got the group in, it's on the center line, we've only moved it on the Y. So what we'll do now is we'll grab this and we'll drag that into the group. So what that means now is that we can work on the pose, we can move everything around, and we can always then just grab the entire group, come back here, and it's in the center of the scene down here. So we can still use symmetry and stuff like that. So for now, that's that done. So we can now, like I said, we can now move this back and comfortably work on the head with symmetry on. I think we also want to, we're going to want to, I think I've got a reference of her with her sword. So I think what we'll do, we'll rough in some shapes. Let's open up the sword reference. Here we go. So if we just rough in the shapes of the sword, we can then use another reference I've got. So we don't need that selected anymore. Yeah, let's just rough in some of these bits and bobs. We'll probably, for the bit, we'll do this one first, and then we'll sculpt this one after. So I think if we come from here, oh, remember what I said, if you want to move around it and still have access to the tools, you need to have the move tool as selected as a secondary thing, you know, so that you can sort of click between the two down here. We need to twist this. We need that on. That'll do. Yeah. Okay, so let's clone that, because we're going to use the same shape up here. We'll just scale it down. I have to forgive my voice as well. I've got I went and caught a cold, which is why I haven't done much more on it. Another thing I want to say real quick is that I had a bit of feedback from someone who follows me, or follows my work, and they mentioned the music. I totally understand, to be fair. So what I'll probably do on this video is I doubt I will have music. I'll probably just leave it so that you guys can, you know, put your own tunes on in the background, or do whatever you fancy. But yeah, the music's going to be gone for this one. I realised that after hearing someone talk about it, I do realise that yeah, listening to the same tune for like 3 hours is probably not ideal. So that's fair. So yeah, like I said, I'll be dropping the music for this one, and we'll be relying on the stellar conversation, I guess. Not too sure. I'm sure we'll figure something out though. So I also want to make this little shape, and maybe these hilts as well. Let's just use cubes for that, because, like, again, this only really needs to be a suggestion of the size of this thing, rather than an actual representation of the sword for now, because I just want to pose it, make sure the swords aren't going to get in the way of the pose or anything like that. So it really is just a it really is just supposed to be a representation. Okay, so we've got that now. Let's go to here, add a cube. I'll try and talk for at least a little while, so that there's not too much silence on the video, because it's yeah, it just feels a bit, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it feels weird not talking. So let's clone that. We'll have this one down here. Okay, let's go ahead and clone this one too, and we'll move this up. So I mean, that's enough for this shape. I might cut the front a little bit just to make it look a bit more like a sword. Yeah, let's do that. Let's validate both of these. And then I'm going to trim just like, yeah, just to give it the shape of a sword, because, you know, it's still got to be clear what's going on in the image, I guess. So let's clone this guy here too. Let's align that pivot so that it we can move it flat on the axis that it's on. And I think for this we're just gonna chop in and make a kind of shape for it. So this is almost done as far as a representation of the sword's going to go. Let's just trim this out. Okay, so let's put these into their hierarchies so that we can move them around and pose them. So we'll have this one here. I can't remember what the sword's called. We're just going to call it Big Sword for now. I think it's like something like Virtuous Contract or Virtuous Treaty, this is called. But I mean, like, that's not really, doesn't really matter too much what the sword's called. I'm pretty sure that is what it's called, but it's not like, you know, we don't need to know what it's called. I'm sure someone's going to roast me in the comments. Isn't this supposed to be your favourite game? Let's go Small Sword or Virtuous Treaty, maybe. I can't remember which way around that goes. So we'll call that Small Sword. That's the hilt, so we drag that under it. So now if we select the handle, like I'm sure I mentioned this in a previous video, or even and there we go. Now we've got a sword we can move and pose. So we've got Big Sword, Small Sword. What's this here? Don't think we need that. Okay, so now what I want to do is bring in, I'm sure I've got a reference of 2B with the sword on her back, so we can kind of line up the base mesh. Yeah, this guy here. So we can now line up the base mesh a little and line up this sword with this one. And that should give us like the rough size of this sword as well. So let's bring the... Let's bring the model back in. Yeah, I think that's kind of roughly the size. What I do know is the sword is actually massive, so it's a big sword. So I think we'll say that's kind of close enough. And then we'll scale up both of these swords at the same time. Sorry, we want to snap the rotation so we can flip it around. There we go. And we'll just scale these up until this big sword lines up a little with it. I mean, it's a darn big sword, so... that's kind of close enough. Okay, so I think what we need to do here is something I didn't think about, and we'll do it on these. Yeah, so it wasn't actually lined up like a proper sword. That's my fault. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We can come back and we're going to remake both of these later anyway. Okay, so let's bring in, how long have we got? We've 15 minutes. Let's bring in the pose that I want to use, which is this guy. And we'll try and lay out the pose. We'll try and pose her up like this, and we'll see what we end up with. So let's get the swords out of the way for now. We'll just move those over here. And let's start working on this pose. So she's already kind of behind us. Not worried about the head for now, we're just going to work on the body. So I think we're looking at... It's quite a sort of... Here in the hips is quite a steep curve. So I'm probably going to go more than that. Let's pop the image in front. So I think she's rotated her hips forward like that as well. So okay, yeah, you can see. So here's where it kind of goes through here. You can see where a spine goes through and starts curving. So some of this rotation is going to be in the legs as well. So this leg's kind of pushed across here. So let's rotate this in a little because her leg's leaning forward. And this leg's sort of like slightly back, I feel. I really don't think it has to be a lot. It doesn't need to be a big rotation there. A lot of the dynamicism, if that's even a word, is going to come from the twist in the body. So let's start pushing this body up and around. So it definitely comes up like that, but it's also going to lean forward. Do you know what? Let's get those arms in there because we nearly left those behind. I'm going to apologise for any like horrible sniffles that you might hear. Because yeah, I'm still getting over this cold. It is not fun. Not gonna lie. So there's a lot of twist in this body as well around this way. She twists around her spine this way. So we're going to start adding that in at the base. And she leans forward a lot. You can see that's coming in here. So I think we want a little bit more twist through the body because her arm comes down here quite far. So let's get some of that twist into her body. Let's rotate this leg up and out of the way as well. Let's add one more camera, add view, and we'll call this pose for now. Okay, so let's have a look at and see where we need to edit, because this pose is looking really, really weird. So I think quite clearly the leg has come up too high. Because it doesn't bend from there. I think this is just an issue with where the pivot point was placed in the leg that I kind of used for the the model that I used for the base mesh here to start building the mesh off of. The pivots are just wherever they were, so I feel like that particular one probably has slightly too high of a pivot point. Okay, so I think this doesn't need to rotate as far. You can see that we can actually see quite a bit of the back of the leg here. I think that we need to bring that bottom in a tiny bit, because we can see that it goes across the inside of the leg. Another thing we need to remember is this leg's going to twist up and in a little bit. Let's rotate that in a little so that we've got the foot, because again, like the foot twists in, you can see that the inside of the foot becomes sort of comes in here. We can get some of that with a bit of a rotation on the foot. And let's have a look at this pose. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the leg's bending a little here. And it should probably twist down and out. Let's go back to the pose. Let's bring the arm down. Some of this we're going to have to take a best guess at, because I feel like some of the perspective's been really, really pushed and warped quite a lot. So I feel like for some of this we're going to just end up using our best guess. I can't really see where her arm goes after the elbow. So let's just bend that in for now. What I haven't decided is whether I'm going to put the other sword in this hand. I feel like it would work nicer as a pose with a sword in the other hand. So maybe big sword, like, because it comes across here, and this is a really nice part of the kind of composition. So what I might do is big sword this hand to follow this sort of this composition line, and I might take this sword and put that across here, so we've got like a sort of like focal point area here, which again kind of kind of accidentally, but also like it's very fitting for the style of this character and for the style of the producer and creator of this game. If we have the big sword coming around here through her hand and another sword coming across here, it's going to frame the middle, and it's going to draw our attention to B's derriere, to her buttocks. And that's a big part of but I don't want to say it's a big part of the character, but it's a noticeable thing, and it's one of the things that makes her attractive as a character is her booty. So that will frame that up nicely. So what I'm going to quickly do, if that camera hasn't stopped already, I'm going to cut this off, reset that camera, and we should be able to finish this in one more swing. So I'll be back momentarily. Right, so we are working on the pose. I think maybe we can scale 2B up a little bit. So it's kind of working. We'll pose up the foot in a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure how far I'm going to push the base mesh for the pose, because again, like, we can tweak any of this, like to have this foot actually contacting the floor. We can just tweak that later as we're going. So I just want to get the overall pose in, I think. Let's take the big sword and we'll put that under her hand. So right shoulder, we'll put that under the wrist. So we'll put that under the right hand. So now if we select the hand, it selects that, but we can also move the we can also move the sword independently if we need. So let's get that sword into our arm. So it's also kind of flat, the sword's sticking out, which makes some sort of sense. I think I want to have it so that it follows the angle of her hand. So let's turn the opacity down, and we'll start thinking about how this is going to look in her hand. I also think no, wait, I'm being silly, because that's the front. So I do apologize if I go quiet for just a little bit. I'm just trying to keep on top of what's going on and not have it be boring at the same time. So it's okay. So it's, and again, it's just a representation for now. I do feel like for some reason this feels a little odd here, so I might twist that back in and then rotate more here at the hip. So let's just bring that a little bit more in line. And then we can rotate from the hip a tiny bit more, which I think will work, probably work a little nicer, and it will create less horrible shapes, you know, at the at this point. There's still a big gap there, but I also think let's up that a tiny bit, maybe bring it forward. I think Let's go back to our pose and just see where we're at with it. See, I've kind of lost a bit in the shoulders there. Can I bring it back with rotating that? No, we can put some of it into the chest though, I think. Let's bring that back round. Okay, so in the reference, she does have her hand sort of like bent, like at well, not at a 90, but it sticks up and away. So that gives us a little bit of like breathing room, let's say, with the sword. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want the sword out of the way, but we obviously can't put it down. I wonder how it looks up. I mean, we could drop her shoulder. Oh, her shoulder's already dropped a little, so I don't want to bring it down too much further. We could bring this one up to sort of like, just to balance it out a little, you know, like one shoulder's pretty low, one shoulder's up. I want to figure out what to do with this sword. I mean, to be fair, it kind of, if we're going to have the back sword up there, like, sorry, if we're going to have this sword that was in her hand, we might be able to still kind of like push it across a little. So we'll have that there and we'll rotate this. I mean, that kind of works. I'm not overly happy with how the arm actually looks. Let's straighten that out. So initially, my initial thoughts were that we have this big sword sweeping down here, and we have the other sword coming out from behind her here to frame this area. I still like that idea, but it's just not. It just doesn't look right. I mean, that kind of works. So let's see where I want the let's see where I want the other sword to come from, because I feel like, I mean, I don't know, I feel like it would look nice if we framed it somehow, like even if it was like this, like it would be nice to frame it somehow. So let's have a look. I do think this needs to, they both need to be sort of like coming this way, like she's diving and she's going to swipe. That would look really quite nice. I mean, I like it in theory, the way that it sort of, so far, the way that it's lining, sort of coming from here and here, and it's sort of like the whole thing's got a sort of dynamic pose. As a dynamic pose, the whole thing sort of sweeps through here, which is nice. It pops out here, which sort of like, you know, helps to draw the eye to here in some ways, I guess. Okay, so I think because I want this to feel as well like she's like swinging it. She's going to swing this out. I need that elbow high, to make it feel like she's really like throwing her elbow into it to get the sword round. So I need to keep this elbow high, which doesn't line up with the pose, but it just feels more natural. Bearing in mind this is a piece of artwork done by a 2D artist. It's not necessarily anatomically correct. Like, the legs definitely feel a little long, but it's a style, you know, like it's a Japanese thing. It's a style, but you know, realistically, the legs are a bit long. I think the arms probably a bit long in places, and this one feels like it's probably a bit. This one feels like it's definitely too long, because if her elbow's here, if her shoulder's here and her elbow's here, this one's either short or it's got some foreshortening going on, but it feels like they're both back, like they're both supposed to be back. This one more so, obviously. Okay, so let's put the head into position, sort of roughly, so that we've at least got it there. Because like I said, we've already set the head up so that we can move the group. So if let's go back to the pose, and I think if we She's definitely looking to the side, which means that she's probably looking slightly okay, so now it's in roughly. I think we need to sort of start thinking about positioning the neck so that we so that it doesn't look any too weird, right? So we'll go back to somewhat near the front where it was. See, I'm seeing already that we should probably have see, this is, I'm glad I cut this neck into pieces now, because I can keep the base of the neck roughly where I think it needs to be, and I can start posing the head around while keeping that there and giving me a good sort of understanding of where the base of the head, where the base of the neck needs to be. And again, like I said, this is quite rough for the minute. It doesn't have to be good in any way. I think as long as we can get this head back to 0 to sculpt, then we should be fine. Do you know what? That's terrible. Yeah, okay. Excuse the sniffles, guys. Maybe actually this might work nicer if she's more like, let's put the sword in her hand. So that's the left shoulder, and we want the small sword in her left hand, so let's grab that, drag that up and drop it under her hand in the hierarchy. Boom. Now if we move the whole arm, we should be able to keep the sword with it. So I want to kind of try I mean, it doesn't make for quite as clean a pose on the back. But I think if we tuck this in a little, bring that a little closer to the body, and then we'll use the wrist to kind of move it back out a little, and then we'll actually move the sword too, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the hand, I'm going to have to bend the hand around the sword a little bit. It will make more sense when we get to it. Like, it probably just sounds a bit crazy right now, but I mean, I'm not mad at it, you know. I'm not mad at that. I mean, it obviously needs a bit of work. We need to pose the hand, pose the foot. So I think I'll do one more stretch on the video. So we'll stop this. We'll reset that, and then I'll sort of very roughly pose the hands and foot, and I think we'll call it just as a base pose to start sculpting from. This will probably get tweaked as we go. So yeah, it's not like sealed and nailed down that this is going to be the pose. Like for example, I think I kind of want to see more of this hip up here, which, you know, could mean something as simple as moving this further out, showing a bit more of that top hip, you know, just pulling that line around here a little further. So, but as at the moment, as it stands, I'm not mad at it. I can definitely work with that. So we'll go ahead, reset the videos, and then we'll do one more pass on this, posing up the hands and maybe that foot there. Okay, so hopefully this is going to be the last part of this one. I know it's probably, I don't want to say it's an unnecessary video, but you know, some people might find it helpful, but it's one part of the process that I'm going to be doing. So, you know, it'll probably just be called, I don't know, part 2, let's pose this model or something like that. I don't know. Right, let's get these hands looking a bit more comfortable. And then I think we'll wrap the video, and I'll heal for another couple of days because I'm still feeling horrible. It's just, I don't know if I almost didn't record this, to be honest, today, just because I feel absolutely dreadful. So let's get this out of the hierarchy for now. That way we can sort of still slightly move the hand without affecting the sword. I also think let's make this a little thinner, because that's definitely not how big the handle is. Yeah, and let's go ahead and pose this hand up a little piece. I'm not overly a fan of how the wrist is bending there. So let's just straighten that out, which also means we're probably going to have to bring the whole sword down a little, just to be in a slightly more comfortable position. And let's start wrapping these fingers. So again, like I probably could have spent a little more time working with these pivot points, but I just wanted to get it done. So let's make sure this hand stays lined up nicely. So it's going to be a lot of, I guess, just working on this, these hand poses a little bit. And again, like I want to iterate again that this is not necessarily the fully 100% the pose I'll use. I will probably tweak some of this. It's just so this is a lot more to do with the just knowing where I'm going to take the sculpt and having a kind of a roadmap, if you want, like at least, you know, this is what my intention was with it. This is how it looked rough. So if it looks weird or off or too different in any way, then at that point it's on me. It's not too bad. I mean, again, this might be something that I revisit. I don't know. You're gonna have to forgive me for any weird noises I might be making. Like I'm very unwell. It's not been fun being ill, I can tell you that. My girlfriend says to me, "Oh, it's not a bad one. It won't last long." 5 days later. It's been rough. So I think what will end up happening overall is this thumb will probably, we'll relax this in a little in a minute, but this thumb's probably just going to be mainly resting on there. So I wanted it to feel relaxed, but like she's also got a grip of it. So I think we need to put this sword into her hand a little more, like through here. That way it feels more like she's actually got a grip on it rather than just loosely holding it, you know. And I think another thing we'll probably do actually is bring these fingers just ever so slightly into each other. So that's not bad. This one we're going to make a proper fist out of. Again, I want to make that a little smaller because I think it's just too big. I don't think she'd be able to hold it with her little hands. So I think again I'm going to take the sword out of the hierarchy because I want to be able to move the hand. I want to be able to move the hand around a little bit. Just move the hand around a little bit around the sword, so I'm not, you know, constantly moving the sword around. I kind of liked the composition of where the sword was. Okay. Okay, let's pose this hand. Get it all. Get it wrapped around this sword here. So we'll do the same, I think, again, because rotating this around, I think if I was to redo this, which, you know, if you followed along exactly with my other tutorial on I say tutorial, more of like a sculpt along with me, I guess. But if you followed along with that, one thing I would suggest you do, which I didn't, is go back through and try and place the pivot points if you're able to. I can't always get them to stay where I want them to, which is why I just sometimes don't bother. Because, like, you know, there are times where I'm working on it and I'll put the pivot point somewhere thinking, okay, that's done. And then I'll go back to it and it's moved. So I don't always bother because, I mean, I'll have to change it in the end anyway. But, I mean, it might be user error. If any of you guys are watching and you're like, bro, you just did it wrong, then let me know in the comments because, yeah, whenever I place a pivot using the pivot tool here, align it, center it, you know, come out of it, I'll go back to the thing and it's the pivot's gone back to its original place, which is kind of not what I wanted. So again, it might be user error. If that's the case, then yeah, let me know in the comments, guys. Because I'd like to know how to keep my pivot points where I put them. That would be nice. come over a little more. I mean, this will sculpt out anyway. So where we've cut it off and the fingers kind of going out where it was the way it was made, we'll sculpt that out anyway. So I'm not too worried. Yeah, again, I apologize if you can hear. I do live above a relatively busy restaurant, so if you do hear any of the noise, it's just from the people working downstairs. They're a nice enough bunch, I suppose. So how close is that to the actual sword? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of touching. I kind of want this turned off. Where's the blooming thing for that? There we go. So yeah, my son's actually doing fine art at school at the moment, and yeah, it was just wanted to quickly say it was one of those like proud moments where I'm like, you know, I it's just nice to see him do something and see that he's got that artistic flair as well. The sad thing about it is I honestly wouldn't recommend going into this industry at the moment. It's absolutely all over the place. It's horrendously competitive, so it's just got really bad over the past couple of years for that type of thing, and it's a real shame because I absolutely love this industry. I've really enjoyed the time I've been working in it, and to see it become what it's becoming and just crumble before my eyes is very very sad, very disheartening for me, and it makes me reluctant to advise anybody to kind of go into this line of work. If you love it that much, you know, you're going to do it anyway. It's something you're going to find and you're going to do regardless. But if you're genuinely asking for advice on whether there's, you know, job security, whether you'll even be able to find a job, honestly, guys, there's probably not the time for it. I mean, always learn, I guess, always be learning, always enjoy what you're doing, and if you're good at it, yeah, you can still make it work, right? And there's always things like YouTube where you can show people what you've learned and help other people try and make those decisions maybe, or offer advice on it. But you know, again, it's not in the best of places right now, the industry overall, and it's very, very upsetting. Right, where's my right hand split gone? So I want that below that, and all of these can go under here. So yeah, like I was saying, my son's been doing fine art, and he's really enjoying it. He's got some very um, he's kind of got like a flair for it, if you want. He showed me a pastel drawing that he'd been working on, some pastel art, and it was really good. Like the colors were really nice. Whoever it is that's teaching him's giving him like a very solid understanding of color theory, and yeah, it's just I'm just proud. It's impressive, um, and I'm just proud. Yeah, so I thought I'd quickly share. I hope that they do some anatomy, like they teach the kids how to draw, or how to construct a human uh, a human figure, because it's an important part of your art journey, I guess, and it's something I didn't really learn properly until much later, and I wish I had, but I didn't know, like, and again, no shade at any of the teachers that used to teach me or whatever, but it was just a very different environment when I was at school, and I really don't think that they quite knew what advice to really offer for a kid that wanted to make art. Um, and I feel like it's a little bit of a shame. I hope that my son doesn't fall into that same trap, you know, like I hope they give him a lot more uh, actionable advice, let's say. So yeah, just a little proud moment that I had when I saw his work. I, I I told him how awesome it was. I was like, "That's really cool. I liked it," but I tried to not be like overexcited about it as well, because I don't want to make it seem nerdy for him either. Like, who wants their dad constantly going on about how epic something is, you know? So I tried not to overhype it, but I was super proud. It's such a cool little drawing, and the colours like were really vibrant and worked really well together. So his teacher's doing a good job. Something I've never really been great at is teaching. So maybe this helping out like this makes up for it in some way. I don't know. I mean, like putting these tutorials out, maybe that helps in some way. Who knows? Not me. So let's go ahead and see if we can rotate this flat a little, because the foot's kind of like, I think we need to pull that forward. So one thing I did on a previous sculpt is I didn't pull this forward, and it ended up making it look like she had a really short like ball of her foot. I won't say which one because I'm still kind of pleased with the sculpt, but yeah, one of my sculpts has got like really small toes, and it was just super weird. Let's try and wiggle these toes round into a position that works. I mean, that's not bad. That's not bad. I mean, it's not perfect, but as a start, it's okay. I think, again, like, look, a lot of the stuff that's going on with these wrists that I don't like, we'll fix that in the sculpt, because there's issues here where it's thin and it's twisted in the wrong way. There's issues here on the hand that I'm just not overly pleased with. But we can fix an awful lot of this when we actually get to the sculpt. So I think we'll leave this here. I think we'll leave that there as a pose to sculpt from. So this will end up being our base. I'm pretty happy. It's not awful. It works. I feel like it. I feel like as far as the pose goes, it works. So why not, I guess. Looks pretty good from there. Definitely looks good from there. Looks kind of cool from here. I like that. That's a really nice looking pose. What I might do is I might bring the knee forward in front of here to make this pose look a little nicer, as long as it doesn't throw this pose out. And let's take a look at the other side. I mean, this pose here particularly, from this side, I mean, maybe if let's drop the swords back in under all of the hands, which I think they should be. Nope. Where's the last one? Let's put the small sword back under the left hand. I think something I'm not sure about on this pose is the fact that it doesn't. This line here isn't really selling that sort of S that I wanted to see. But I don't know if we really want that, because she's like diving away. How's the front look for the rib cage? I think we'll worry about that when we get to sculpting, because it might just be that we can sort of sculpt up the shoulders a little. Also, it might be because... No, I mean, that works okay. I think we'll leave that. I think we'll get to the sculpt and we'll tweak it as we go. So I think the next thing we're going to do in the next video is start sculpting, and we'll start with the torso, which will give us an idea of where everything else is going to sit and how it's going to feel. But overall, I'm happy with that for the starting pose of the model, of the sculpt. Yeah, I'm kind of pleased with that. This foot looks good. The heel can come off here, which will work out nicely. It's a good angle on the heel. Her knee is out a lot more, but I feel like for the other side of this pose, that knee coming in is going to really sell that and make that look nice. So I don't want to push that too far out. Plus, it will give us that nice sweeping S here on the outside of that hip, which I think I'll push up and out more. Maybe. We'll see how we go. Yeah, I think overall I'm happy with that. So I think what I'll do, we'll leave it and we'll get to the next video. That's going to cut off in a minute anyway. and we'll talk a little bit more about the actual sculpt and how I'm going to break that down in the next video. So it will most likely be torso, leg, arm, or maybe face in the next one, then torso, then leg, arm. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, thank you for joining me on this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Happy sculpting.